Okay, so episode 9 and the finale of The Amazing Digital Circus is out. And I already made a video kind of talking about like some of the criticisms people have for The Amazing Digital Circus and giving my own take on it. And now that the finale is out, I'm also going to look at some of the takes that people have and the criticisms people have and give my own take on it, because a lot of the criticisms people have are, once again, just things I very much disagree with, and I feel like people are just looking at the show at face value and not truly really understanding it. Okay, so like all my other rant videos, this is entirely unscripted. I'm just talking off, like the top of my head. All right. My thoughts on the finale, I thought it was great. I was always a big fan of the Soma theory because it always felt like the perfect ending for The Amazing Digital Circus. It always made the most sense. It aligned with the themes the most. And in a way, it just kind of felt the most satisfying than them just leaving, My only, real complaint is that I do agree that the Jax scenes did go on for a bit long, and it made the Kane scenes kind of feel more rushed. But, really, that's my only actual complaint about the finale. Other than that, I thought it was the perfect ending. But, like always with this fandom, they manage to complain about everything, and it almost always ties back to Jax. So, what are some of the issues that people have? Well, for starters, the biggest thing I've seen is people say that he faces no consequences to his actions. Which, are you serious? He died! Jax dies because he is too stubborn and too selfish to admit that he's wrong and reach out. He died to his own selfishness. How is that not a consequence to his actions? What? And people are going to be like, well, no, a character should have crashed out on him. Ragatha should have crashed out on him. And while I do agree, it probably would have been very satisfying, it's very out of character for any of the other characters to crash out on Jax other than, Zubul. Okay? And, and also just, it wouldn't make sense at this point in the story for someone to crash out on another character, because they are at the lowest point where they have lost all hope. And they're all just really sad, really depressed, and to crash out on someone else in the circus is just, there's no point. It's just going to bring needless suffering, needless arguments, when all they really need to do right now is to build community. Everyone else did, Jax did not. Jax was the only one who stayed out of everyone coming together, which is why he abstracted, because he died to his own stubbornness. And then people say that the characters forgave him too quickly, when that's not the case at all. No character even really says, I guess Jax wasn't that bad, yada yada yada, I guess I forgive Jax because he's dead now. The only character who really forgives Jax is Pomni, and that's because she was close friends with Jax. They bonded. He was probably the first person that she really connected with in the circus. And plus, she was literally in his brain. She was in his cranium and saw everything, okay? She's going to have more sympathy for him than the other characters. But, there's literally a scene where Gangle cannot cry. She says she cannot bring herself to cry for Jax. Gangle clearly does not forgive Jax at all. The only reason why they, help Jax is abstracted for him is because if they hadn't, they all would have died. And also, it's just, the right thing to do. Honor the dead and all that, even if, they hurt you. That's basically Jax's corpse. Okay, what do you want them to do with it? And meanwhile, in Jax's brain, they're answering all of the questions that, not all of the questions, but a lot of the questions that we've had over, the years as the show has gone on. Who are some of the past members? Who is Kaufmo? We learn more about Ragatha and Jax's entire dynamic, and in turn, learning more about Ragatha as a whole. We learn more about what the circus was like before Pomni. We learn about Gangle coming in and all that. People, you got all the answers. Not all the answers, but a lot of the answers you've been wanting. But people are complaining about it because it was from Jax's point of view. How else would you have wanted those questions to be answered? And then people say, well, what about CNA? We didn't learn a lot about CNA. We learned a lot about CNA. What are you talking about? Okay, here's what we know about CNA. Kinger and Scratch created it. They were trying to make creative AI. But then Kane destroyed their strongest, AI, and in turn destroying all of their hard work, which most likely caused CNA to shut down because Kane destroyed all of their work. What more do you need from that? I think you guys just want mascot horror about like a rundown tech company like freaking Poppy's Playtime or whatever, because that is not the point of the Amazing Digital Circus. And like, also, that, what more do you want from that? That is all we really need to know about C&A. That's all we need to know. And we got that answered. We got that out of the way, like, before episode 9. You guys, I think, are just brain rotted by, like, you know, game and film theory over the years. So you think the lore and, like, the entire backstory of the tech company is what matters most, when that is not what matters most. Like, complaining that we don't know, like, every detail about C&A kind of reminds me of people complained about, like, the Iron Giant because we don't know who created the Iron Giant. Like, why does that matter? It does not matter. It's not important to the story at all. Not important to the themes, the messages, or the plot. It's not important. It's just meant to be a sort of backstory. That's all we need. And then people say, like, oh my gosh, they're trying to make us sympathize with an abuser. No, no, they're not. No, they are not. That's not what they're doing. There's a difference between them trying to make us sympathize with a character versus humanizing them. Because it's almost like bad people aren't just bad for the sake of being bad. Once again, Jax is a cautionary tale. Us learning about his backstory and why he is the way he is a cautionary tale, and it humanizes his character. Does it make, like, do you have to feel bad for him? No, that was not the point. The point is to show this is how a person can get to Jax's point. Do not be like that. Do not be like Jax. That was the whole damn point. Don't be like Jax. Don't push people away. Don't lie. Don't let your trauma be the sole focus in how you interact with everything on a daily basis, because that will just hurt you and hurt the people around you, and it will make you miserable. That's the whole point, to humanize Jax, not to make you feel bad for him. And I can't believe I'm about to say this, but a lot of the criticisms people have about Jax and the amount of screen time and character development he gets, I honestly feel like the people who have those complaints would not be having those complaints if Jax was a woman. I can't believe I'm saying this. If you know me, you know I am huge on talking about how women are treated in media and fandom and all of that. Like, I was in the trenches defending Ragatha, okay? I was there, okay? And I can't believe I'm saying this, but if Jax was a woman, so many of these complaints about his screen time and character development and all of that, and how much he's on screen would not be as, like, you know, prevalent if Jax was a woman. Honestly, because of this fact, I feel like we have achieved true equality, okay? Because I never thought I would be at the point where I would say, if a character was a woman, you guys wouldn't be as hating as much. Oh my gosh, true equality has been, you know, found. Obviously, I'm joking, but, like, I don't know, just I see so many people, like, switching up at the, like, now that Jax is, like, you know, trans, people are like, oh, I support women's wrongs, actually, and all that. Like, so I feel like so many of these people would not be as, like, critical if Jax and Pomni were both female characters, and Jax was, you know, a female character who was, like, this complex and, like, had this amount of screen time and all that. I can't believe I'm saying this, but yeah, oh my gosh. And then people say that, like, no other, like, characters, you know, the character arcs weren't, you know, finished and all that. I've already discussed in the previous part that every other character's, like, character arc has already come full circle, except for one, Ragatha. But here's the thing, in episode 9, Ragatha's character arc did come to a close. You see, that scene, whenever, you know, Ragatha and Pomni are talking about what they're going to do with Jax, Pomni basically tells Ragatha, you are great at looking out for people. Look out for, like, the others right now while I go handle Jax, okay? Basically telling Ragatha that your biggest insecurity is actually your greatest strength. You're not a burden. No one thinks you're annoying. You being there for people actually love that. You're a great person, Ragatha. And then they embrace and all that. And, like, this scene lingers on so long, and people somehow didn't get it. They didn't get it. That all Ragatha needed was someone to just tell her, you're doing a good job. And that, like, and people were making fun of it, like, oh my gosh, this scene is lasting so long. Oh my gosh. While completely missing the point of why it lasted so long. Oh my gosh, you guys. Also, this is, like, Jax's death and all of that is the scene that the entire show has been building up towards. We're witnessing an abstraction for the first time in the show, like with a character that we know. Not really counting Kaufmo, but like in the show, we're actually witnessing an abstraction happen within real time. It has been built up to, and like, you had to have seen this. We all saw this coming, so why are you complaining about it? And also, it's very typical to show a character's life flash before their eyes whenever they're, like, dying. That's basically what's happening here. Showing Jax's entire life. That is very typical for a show to do when a character dies, to give us their entire backstory, okay? That is the whole, The Amazing Digital Circus is not the first show to do this, and it certainly will not be the last. Another thing, I see a lot of people try to, justify Jax's mother because they hate Jax. Oh my gosh, I see people all like, his mom actually wasn't abusive. Like, she hugged him and all that. Like, that is such a common tactic for abusers. How could you say that just because his mom hugged him, it means that she wasn't actually that bad, because we're hearing it from Jax's perspective? She literally laughed at him and hurled insults at him. Did you miss that part? Like, you hate Jax so much that you're willing to excuse incestuous abuse just because you hate a character that much. Like, that's gross. You're gross. You're just gross. And, I don't think Jax haters and all that realize just how important he is to, the story and moving it forward, and also making it interesting with the themes and messages, because, without having an antagonist who, goes against all of the themes and messages, the show would be very boring. Without Jax, the show would be boring. I'm sorry. It just would. It would be a very boring, lame show, uninteresting, without him there, because of how much he, mixes up and stirs up the themes and messages, how much he goes against the characters' personalities, and how much he clashes with them. The show would be boring without Jax. I'm sorry, he just would. And a lot of people also misunderstood, some of the stuff that happened in Jax's brain. Like that scene where it showed how he would react during Zubal's death, and, he was flirting with Gangle, and everyone was all like, oh my gosh, that's so cringe, that's fan service. It's meant to be cringe. That's the whole point, okay? People acting like the Mason Digital Circus has these cringe moments without meaning to. They're intentional. This is very clearly meant to make you feel uncomfortable. And the reason why I feel like Jax does this is because he very clearly thinks that Gangle likes it whenever he's mean to her. He says this, in that one episode of, I forgot what it's called, the one where they go on those misadventures and all, the multiple ones. He says this, he thinks Gangle likes it whenever he's mean to her. Because of his trauma, he thinks that, if someone loves you, they can be mean to you, yada, yada, yada. And this scene is clearly meant to show you that Jax is a bad person. The show knows that Jax is a bad person because he thinks Gangle likes it whenever he's mean to her. Again, showing that Jax is a bad person, and the show knows it. And this scene is meant to make you feel uncomfortable. I have no idea how that flew over people's heads, but you're meant to feel uncomfortable and weirded out during the scene. That was the point. I have no idea how people didn't realize that. Now, there are probably some criticisms that I missed and forgot to talk about, honestly. And I'll probably regret that after I finish recording this video, which will suck, but whatever. I've got my words out. I really need to write scripts, you guys. Anyways, like I said, I don't think the Amazing Digital Circus finale was perfect. I do wish we got to learn more about Pomni. I really do. But for what it's worth, I do think she fulfilled her point in the story. I feel like their backstories weren't the important part. It was of all the characters exactly. I feel like it was just them accommodating their life in the circus. Well, and again, I do wish we learned more about Pomni. I do feel like we learned enough about her for her, the ending to feel satisfying, if that makes any sense. Pomni doesn't need to have some sort of tragic backstory or something insane going on in her real life. She probably had a very normal, very steady life, and that's probably why we didn't learn a lot about her, honestly. She probably had a pretty trauma-free life, and that's probably why we didn't learn a lot about her in the real world. And what we did learn, I feel was enough, and that's why her trauma was mainly centered around the circus, because she probably didn't have anything that insane going on in her real life. But yeah, I really liked the ending. And and this fandom drives me insane. But whatever. Fandom is fandom. Fandom will fandom. Get me out of here. But yeah, I promise one of these days I'll start writing scripts for my videos. But today is not that day.